Welcome Lumineers! Today's a really exciting one because as of the day of recording this, Disney Lorcana hosted the very first Lorecast on their official Twitch page, which will be linked in the description. They had a lot of really awesome things to reveal to us, spanning from competitive play details and locations, to a brand new co-op Disney Lorcana product, to revealing set 4 Ursula's Return. They also revealed a total of 17 cards today, so for this video we're just going to focus on the new set and the new cards, but be on the lookout for future videos coming discussing the other things covered in the Lorecast. Right now there is no VOD to rewatch the live stream, but I live streamed the whole thing with a bunch of cool Lorcana content creators and friends where we live reacted to all of the reveals. You can check that out in the description if you do want to rewatch the Lorecast, but there should eventually be a raw live stream VOD uploaded eventually. To start the Lorecast, they showed us the set 4 animated trailer where we got to see Bruno from Encanto, two Ursulas fighting with a trident and a crown. Then Bruno looks to be controlled or possessed by something along with some other glimmers. It looks like the Illumineers find Ursula's lair, and just when they start making their way to it, they're caught by surprise by these possessed glimmers and Ursula with Triton's trident. It was a really neat trailer that I recommend you watch if you haven't already. Finally, we're shown the name for set 4, Ursula's Return. It looks like Ursula was the one plotting this all along, since we see little details like the pink seaweed from the Mickey Mouse Detective card from set 1, and it was her who stole Triton's trident from the set 3 trailer. We got to see a lot of product images from the new set 2, including the pack art where we see Ariel, Sisu, and Ursula. We also saw the Illumineers trove, which looks like there isn't much different from the last set, except the dividers have the card rarity symbols on them instead of the ink colors. I prefer to organize my cards by set and ink color, but it's nice that this gives people a way to sort them by rarity if they want to. I do think it's funny though that there is an enchanted rarity divider. If you're sorting your enchanteds in a penny sleeve and a trove, please at least put them in a top loader and somewhere safe. Otherwise, the trove is the same with 6 damage dice, a lore counter, and 8 packs. We also got a glimpse of a beast art on the side of the box, which looks really cool too. Next, we got to see both starter decks, one featuring Mirabelle and Bruno from Encanto in an Amber Amethyst combo, and the other featuring what looks like Anna and Hercules in a Sapphire Steel combo. Nothing has changed about the starter decks from previous sets: 60 card decks, including 2 foil cards of the characters on the package front, 11 game tokens, 1 quick start rulebook, and 1 booster pack. Then we got to see the brand new product, Illumineers Quest Deep Trouble, which is a cooperative game that can be played with up to 4 players or by yourself. We were told in the Lorecast this game really drives the narrative of what's happening in Lorcana and has some really cool things inside. Included is 1 oversized Ursula card, 1 Ursula scenario deck of 50 cards, which has the unique gold card back, 2 pre-built 60 card decks to play with, 2 oversized double-sided battleground cards, 1 Deep Trouble playmat, 1 Ursula draw token, 3 lore tracker tokens, 29 damage counters, and 1 secret victory card that is bound by a contract, which you only get to open when you defeat Ursula. Now, we don't know what all of these things actually are, but we do know that there are 4 difficulty levels to play this cooperative game with. We don't know how it works yet, so I'm really excited to pick this up and learn more. As you can see in the product image, there are 4 cards shown and 3 of them are new, but all of them have this really cool ink flooding on the card that I think will be exclusive to this product. We'll review those cards in a minute once we finish covering all of the product. Finally, we were shown the deck boxes, card sleeves, and playmats for this set, but you'll notice that all of the art on these are from previous sets. We see the enchanted Snow White, the Amethyst Genie from Into the Inklands, Rapunzel, and Giant Tinkerbell on the playmat. We were told during the Lorecast that previously all the art for the accessories matched the cards from the set, but there's so much good art in Disney Lorcana that moving forward they weren't abiding by that pattern anymore so that they could create really cool products like these. Giant Tinkerbell is one of the most popular cards in Disney Lorcana, so I'm stoked especially for that playmat, and I think it's really cool they're going this route. Now that we've gotten through the accessories, let's look at all the cards revealed today, starting with Daisy Duck, Lovely Lady. She's an Amber Uncommon Inkable 1-cost card with 1 strength, 3 willpower, and 1 lore. Pretty normal, but it's really nice that Amber finally gets their 1/3 card like all the other inks have. Right now, Sapphire's the only one that's missing their 1/3, so it's kind of cool to see that, and I really like this Daisy art as well. Next is Felix Madrigal, Fun-Loving Family Man. He's an Amber Uncommon Inkable 3-cost card with 2 strength, 4 willpower, and 2 lore. Even though he's a vanilla card, I actually think he might be okay, specifically because he has a lot of willpower and he can quest for 2 lore, which fits pretty well in what Amber likes to do, going wide and playing a little bit more aggro. It'll be a little bit more difficult to challenge Felix and get rid of him, and he'll be able to quest for 2 lore. Next, we have Julieta Madrigal, Excellent Cook, which is an uncommon Amber Inkable 3-cost with 1 strength, 4 willpower, and 1 lore. She has the traits Storyborn, Mentor, and Madrigal with the ability Signature Recipe that says when you play this character, you may remove up to 2 damage from chosen character. If you removed damage this way, you may draw a card. I really love this card because it's basically like a powered down version of Rapunzel gifted with healing from set 1, which says when you play Rapunzel, you can heal a character for 3 damage, and for every damage they were healed, you get to draw a card. You don't get to draw as many cards as Julieta, but you're still benefiting from healing 2 damage and drawing a card from healing things. I think this will make a great budget option for people that don't have access to the Rapunzel, and this comes in the starter deck, by the way. All of these come in the starter deck, I think. I forgot to mention that. Next, we have Mirabelle Madrigal, Gift of the Family. She's a super rare Amber Uninkable 5 cost with 3 strength, 5 willpower, and 2 lore. She has the characteristics Dreamborn, Hero, and Madrigal with the keyword support and the ability Saving the Miracle. Whenever this character quests, your other Madrigal characters get +1 lore this turn. As you've already seen, there's a lot of Madrigal characters, and the Amber Amethyst starter deck has a lot of them in there, so I think this is going to be a really awesome card in the Amber Amethyst starter deck. I'm not sure how great it's going to be in constructed. Typically, cards that gain lore by other things happening or give other things lore by questing don't see that much play because they're a little bit too slow. It basically opens up their ability to be banished before you're able to actually exert with them and requires a little bit of setup. But I absolutely love this card, and I'm really excited to see it in the starter deck. I think it's going to make those starter decks really good. Next, we have Bruno Madrigal, Out of the Shadows. He's a rare Amethyst Uninkable 5 cost card with 4 strength, 5 willpower, and 1 lore. He has the characteristic Storyborn Ally Madrigal and the ability It Was Your Vision. When you play this character, chosen character gains when this character is banished in a challenge. You may return this card to your hand this turn. I think this is a really interesting ability, but I'm not sure how much play it's actually going to see. It requires a little bit of setup and having something on board that you can already challenge with, and you have to be able to challenge something that your opponent's exerted as well. It allows you to bounce it back to your hand, which is something that Amethyst really likes to do, to be fair. You can bounce rabbits or goats if you do something like this, but with Bruno being uninkable, I feel like he might be a little bit too slow for his actual payoff, but we'll see. I'm really excited to see Bruno in set 4. Next is Dolores Madrigal, Easy Listener. She's a common Amethyst Inkable 4 cost with 3 strength, 3 willpower, and 2 lore. She has the characteristic Storyborn Ally Madrigal with the ability Magical Informant. When you play this character, if an opponent has an exerted character in play, you may draw a card. I think this is a really good common card, especially in limited, being able to draw a card when one of your character's cards is exerted. Even in standard, I think this is going to be a pretty good card. I don't think it's on the same power level as something like Merlin Rabbit when it comes to playing cards that you draw cards from, and something like Maleficent Sorceress is probably still a little bit better just because it's a little bit more consistent. But if you're missing some of those cards, I can absolutely see a reason for putting this into your deck. There's going to be lots of scenarios where you'll be able to trigger Dolores's ability, and she quests for 2 lore, which is pretty big. Her 3/3 stat line isn't very bad either. A lot of times 3 strength trades with other characters, so that's really awesome to see. And at the end of the day, she's inkable, so if you need to put her into your inkwell, you can. Overall, I really like this card, and I can absolutely see this card getting some play. Next, we have Louisa Madrigal, Magically Strong One, who's a common Amethyst Uninkable 4 cost with 4 strength, 3 willpower, and 1 lore. She has the characteristic Storyborn Ally and Madrigal with the keyword Rush. This is essentially the exact same stat line as Madame M. Fox, which has seen lots of play ever since it was released, except Louisa is uninkable and cost 1 more. The trade-off is that you don't have to bounce a character, but we've learned that's not usually a bad thing, actually. Because of this reason, I just really don't see why Louisa would end up being played over Madame M. Fox. Madame M. Fox being inkable really helps, and a lot of times, whether a card's inkable or uninkable can really make or break it. I think she's a great card in limited or in draft. Any sort of rush character or character that can come out and challenge as soon as it's played, I think is really good in those formats. But other than that, I don't see this card getting much constructed play. Next, this one actually wasn't revealed in the Lorecast. It was actually revealed in one of the articles on the Disney Lorcana website, but this is Ursula, Sea Witch Queen. She's a legendary Amethyst Inkable 7 cost with 4 strength, 7 willpower, and 3 lore. She has the characteristics Floodborn, Villain, Queen, and Sorcerer with the keyword Shift 5, which means you can play her for 5 ink on top of another character named Ursula. She has 2 abilities. The first one is Now I Am the Ruler, that says whenever this character quests, exert chosen character. And the second ability is You'll Listen to Me. Other characters can't exert to sing songs. I think this card is actually really good right now. Songs are a pivotal part to Disney Lorcana. One of the key mechanics to this game game and are extremely strong. Having a character that says other characters can't sing songs really just stops a deck in its tracks sometimes. Not to mention, being able to exert a character when you play her opens you to removing the character if you need to. Her strength at 4 fits right in between the lines of not being hit by cards like Mana Medusa and also not being hit by cards like World's Greatest Criminal Mind. She has a lot of willpower, which means she's likely to survive a couple challenges, like she doesn't die to a Maui, for example, and she quests for 3 lore, which is just a lot of lore. This is definitely a late game bomb. I can absolutely see where this card gets played. After that, we have Triton's Trident, which is an uncommon amethyst inkable 2-cost item with the ability Symbol of Power that says banish this item. Chosen character gets +1 strength this turn for each card in your hand. This is a very amethyst card because amethyst is just one of the best inks at drawing cards, which means you're likely going to have a lot of cards in your hand anyway. Though I don't think giving something extra strength based on the cards in your hand is usually going to be worth running in your deck. I think there's other better ways of giving characters plus strength, and typically cards that just strengthen your characters don't do great, especially if they're just an item. So I'm not super impressed with this card, but we'll see. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. Next, we have Goofy Super Goof, who is a rare ruby inkable 4-cost card with 2 strength, 4 willpower, and 1 lore. He's a storyborn hero with the keyword rush and the ability Super Peanut Powers. Whenever this character challenges another character, gain 2 lore. I absolutely love this card, both for the art and the ability. Ruby cares a lot about characters that challenge, and having an ability that lets you gain lore the turn that you play it can be really strong. When we first saw cards like Shere Khan, we thought they would be really strong, allowing you to challenge and gain lore at the same time. The problem was they were a little bit too slow because you usually had to wait for the character to dry before you could challenge. With Goofy, as long as your opponent has an exerted character, you can just play Goofy and rush it into them and immediately gain 2 lore while potentially banishing another character and then threatening to do that again if they don't take out your Goofy. I don't know if he'll make the cut at the end of the day, but I think it's a really awesome place for Ruby to be heading in this direction for this archetype specifically. Just having that rush keyword with that ability that gains lore when challenging, I think makes a card like this playable, so I'm excited to test with it at the very least. Next is Anna Braving the Storm. She's a common sapphire inkable 2-cost card with 1 strength, 4 willpower, and 1 lore. She's a Dreamborn hero queen with the ability I Was Born Ready. If you have another hero character in play, this character gets +1 lore. I actually kind of like this card because she's pretty beefy. She has 4 willpower for a 2-drop that's inkable. If you have 2 of these on board, they're both heroes, so they would each give each other +1 lore. Not to mention there's a couple bodyguards that we have that are heroes also, so I can definitely see a world where maybe you play Anna on turn 2, then you can play a Hercules on turn 3 and quest with Anna for 2 lore while making it difficult for your opponent to challenge her. Sapphire actually has some pretty good aggressive cards, but typically doesn't see play in a lot of aggressive decks because of its ability to ramp, and I think this is leaning more in that direction of being able to play a little bit faster and more aggressive, so I think that's really interesting. I'm eager to see more Sapphire cards that do stuff like this. After that, we have Hans Noble Scoundrel, who's a common Sapphire inkable 3-cost with 3 strength, 2 willpower, and 2 lore. He's a storyborn villain prince with the ability Royal Schemes. When you play this character, if a princess or queen character is in play, gain 1 lore. This card definitely feels a lot more typal, having to see a princess or queen character in play, so I can definitely see where this card wants to be slotted in, specifically in a deck that's running a lot of princesses or queens. 2 lore on a 3-cost character isn't the worst either, especially with it being inkable. Doesn't have a terrible stat line, but it could be a little bit better. So I can see where maybe this gets played in another more aggro or mid-rangey Sapphire deck for sure. But at the very end of the day, this also could just see play in a Princess or Queen deck, which is also really just fun. I love to see cards that encourage you to build thematic decks. Next, we have Rapunzel Appreciative Artist. She's a rare Sapphire inkable 5-cost with 3 strength, 5 willpower, and 3 lore. She has the characteristics Dreamborn Hero and Princess with the ability Perceptive Partner. While you have a character named Pascal in play, this character gains ward, which means that opponents can't choose them except to challenge. The only Pascal we have in the game so far is the Amethyst 1-drop Pascal that gains evasive when there's another character in play. The 1-drop Pascal and the 5-drop Rapunzel are very far from each other in regards to ink curve, but they both do a really cool thing where they help each other stay hidden, for lack of a better term. When Rapunzel's on board, Pascal will have evasive. When Pascal's on board, Rapunzel will have ward. So you won't be able to challenge Pascal, you won't be able to target target Rapunzel. 3 lore by itself on an inkable 5-cost card is a lot of lore, so this is a really good mid-game bomb if you ask me. It's threatening a lot of lore, and again, if you can pair it with the Pascal, then you're making it even harder for your opponent to deal with. Next, we have one of the cards I was most excited to see out of the cards revealed from the Lorecast, Ariel Sonic Warrior. Ariel is a super rare steel inkable 6-cost card with 3 strength, 8 willpower, and 2 lore. She's a Floodborn hero princess with the keyword shift 4, which means you can pay 4 ink to play her on top of another character named Ariel. She has the ability Amplified Voice that says whenever you play a song, you may pay 2 ink to deal 3 damage to chosen character. This card would go really well in an Amber Steel Song deck that's already running the inkable 3-cost Ariel, which just so happens to perfectly shift into this one. You play the Amber Ariel on turn 3, search your top 4 cards of your deck for a song to put in your hand, and then on turn 4 you can shift Ariel and sing the song. You wouldn't have enough ink to deal the 3 damage, but this Ariel is benefiting off of what the other Ariel is already trying to do, and honestly what the whole Amber Steel Song deck is trying to do also. She has a lot of willpower, so she's going to be really difficult to banish as well, and she basically turns every song card that you have into a smash card, into a deal 3 damage, which I think is just going to be really strong. I love the art on this card, and I can't wait to play this in my Steel Song deck. Next, we're going to get into those cards that we saw for the Lumineers Quest Deep Trouble co-op game, starting with Yensid, Powerful Sorcerer, who's a legendary Amethyst inkable 2-cost card with 1 strength, 3 willpower, and 1 lore. He's a Storyborn hero sorcerer with 2 abilities. The first one, Timely Intervention, that says when you play this character, if you have a character named Magic Broom in play, you may draw a card. And the second being Arcane Study. While you have 2 or more Broom characters in play, this character gets +2 lore. I love to see more Broom synergy. I absolutely love the Broom deck and think it's so fun that we continue to get cards that synergize with that deck specifically. I mentioned it earlier, but I love these little tentacle or little ink things that are happening on the card as well. But those versions of the card are only going to be available in the Lumineers Quest. Otherwise, I believe just the normal art versions of these cards should be available to be pulled in regular booster packs. Like I said, this obviously goes into a Magic Brooms deck. I don't know how good that's actually going to be, but I feel like this does up the power level of your brooms a little bit. Usually you should have a broom that's in play, which means you can likely replace Yensid when you play him. And if you've gone wide and you have quite a few brooms, then of course Yensid can quest for 2. Or even if you only have 1 broom and then Yensid, you can play a broom and then quest him for an extra 2 as well. I'm also just really happy to see Yensid in the game. Next is Mulan, Elite Archer, another legendary ruby inkable 6-cost card with 2 strength, 6 willpower, and 2 lore. She's a Floodborn hero princess, which means she can be shifted for 5 and has 2 abilities. Straight Shooter, that says when you play this character, if you used shift to play her, she gets +3 strength this turn. And then another ability, Triple Shot, that says during your turn, whenever this character deals damage to another character in a challenge, deal the same amount of damage to up to 2 other chosen characters. This could be huge. This essentially says if you can shift Mulan, then deal 5 damage to a character, you can also deal 5 damage to 2 other characters, which might as well be a board wipe most of the time, to be honest with you. Mulan has a couple shift targets. I don't know how great they are. There is an uninkable 4-cost Mulan card in Ruby already that has Rush. I think it's a 4/3 with 1 lore. I don't think that's a great card to be shifting onto, even though it does shift efficiently, primarily because Mulan is uninkable and she has Rush, so you usually want to be playing her to challenge stuff and banishing her, but I don't think it would be the worst. Primarily, I think it's not great, specifically because it's an uninkable card, and Ruby already has some really good uninkable cards that it likes to play. There's also an Amber Mulan card that's an inkable 3-cost that has the support keyword, which really actually synergizes with this a lot. Amber Ruby is already a deck that sees a little bit of play and it's pretty synergistic with itself. I think you could definitely put Mulan in a deck like that. If you need to, you can shift this Mulan onto the Amber one and then challenge and do all the damage. Or if you already have the big Mulan in play, you can use the Amber Mulan to give this Mulan support, increasing its strength, increasing the damage that you're dealing to a character, which then increases the damage you're able to deal to 2 other characters. At face value, this card looks like it has a lot of potential and I'm really excited about it. It might be one of my favorite ones from the cards that we got revealed, but I think ultimately it might come down to how telegraphed this Mulan play is going to be. Primarily because if your opponent sees a Mulan in play, then they can just choose not to exert anything, and without a way to exert those characters yourself, you're not going to be able to shift Mulan and then challenge them. But we'll just have to wait and see. Finally, finally, the last card that was revealed was Mickey Mouse Playful Sorcerer, a rare steel inkable 5-cost card with 3 strength, 4 willpower, and 2 lore. He's a Floodborn hero sorcerer with shift 3 and resist +1. He has the ability Sweep Away that says when you play this character, deal damage to chosen character equal to the number of broom characters you have in play. This is more broom synergy, and I am here for it. Being able to play a character and progressing your board state while also dealing damage to another character sounds really good. At the very least, this goes in a broom deck and is very thematic, being Mickey Playful Sorcerer. Resist +1 means he's going to be a little bit more difficult to banish, and having 2 lore makes him a pretty good quester as well. There aren't many great Mickeys for him to actually shift onto. There's obviously the Wayward Sorcerer one that's an Amethyst, but I don't think you usually want to be shifting onto that one because that one discounts all your brooms and lets you bring your brooms back to your hand when they're banished in a challenge. Otherwise, you have a couple steel ones, but they don't shift too well, or if they do shift okay, they're not really great cards to play. But to be honest, I'm not upset about just playing this Mickey for 5. I think it's going to really open up the broom decks and give them a little bit of flexibility and some better cards to play. So I'm really excited to see where those end up being. That's basically everything for the new set, Ursula's Return. I'm so excited by all the stuff that was revealed in the Lorecast. All of these cards look really, really awesome, and I'm excited to see what else they have in store for us. But I also want to know what y'all's thoughts are. I think this is the most cards we've ever seen at a set reveal, so I'd love to know which ones were your favorite. Are you excited for this set? Is there something that piques your interest? If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to subscribe and like. I have a lot more Lorcana content coming up. Most importantly, don't forget to take care of yourself. My name is Brandon, also known as B Squared. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.